county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, South Coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here, and I'm proud to call it our own. Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Like our kids that go and see the world, take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and come to be back for more. Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, they built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, sandy soil. You won't be a stranger along. It's Ontario, South Coast, you know, and surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of North On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know. On a
I'm going to start in 1 minute. That's not a good thing to ask me. I just said, Dave, I don't know. I don't know how we got that. I don't know. He said she's away on personal business. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We have a quorum. We have everybody that we had before the break. I would like to continue this meeting and go through the communications, the staff reports of committees, and finish up to this evening with the in-camera session. Is that suitable? Then we'll get at it. Thank you. I'm on page 77 under communications. We'll deal with these one at a time by motion. The first communication is from Tony Bulk on the Green Bug Energy. I have a mover. I don't have a seconder to receive this as information. Councillor Brunton has moved. Councillor Oliver has seconded that the Quants Dam water Power project status update be received as information. Questions or comments I'll entertain on this correspondence, communication and motion. Councillor Black, please.
I guess when reading this, it doesn't really, they're not asking for anything, are they? They're just giving us an update. I thought maybe they were asking us for some kind of support and a letter to some ministry, but I guess they're not. So it's just receive it as information.
That is correct. That's
Okay.
why I read it. Councillor Columbus, then Oliver.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And I did receive calls about this, and I've spoken to our MPP Toby Barrett, who's parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Natural Resources, Jeff Urick, who represents Elgin, and he was going to ask some questions about, try to get a handle on where this whole program's going. There's not that many hydroelectric projects. There's a lot of solar, a lot of wind, but this one here is a water project, so it may be more feasible to put it through. Perhaps, I think you met with Mr. Barrett, and maybe you've got shed some more light on it, Mr. Mayor.
Well, certainly Ms. Miranda and myself met with our MPP, Mr. Barry, yesterday afternoon. This was an item was discussed, and he's certainly well aware of this situation. Councillor Oliver, please.
I don't have too much to add to it, Mr. Mayor. I believe we had originally gotten a letter from them asking us to throw our support behind the Ontario Water Power Association in petitioning the government to get on with the process, particularly for these small water projects. And I do know we saw in our information package this evening, there is that letter from the Ontario Water Power Association to MPP Barrett, just, you know, asking him to ask the government to acknowledge these small ones. I mean, water power, hydropower is the most benign and user-friendly and environmentally friendly of all the green energies. And I wonder, Mr. Mayor, if in fact we could ask that such a letter of support for our own project, and I'm really glad to hear Councillor Columbus and yourself, Mr. Mayor, have maybe spoken to MPP Barrett already about it, but it would be a real shame, I think, at this 11th hour if this project got kiboshed just because. They're kiboshing them all. And I don't know whether you'd consider it or whether it would require a notice of motion or something at this point.
No, I think this council could give me direction to do that. I don't know what sort of position that puts our MPP in with the policies of this government he is now part of. Again, I'm not suggesting for a moment that that should make any difference in us asking for a letter of support. So if this council, Councillor Oliver, if you wish for me to have a show of hands to send a letter out, I would be delighted to do it on a show of hands. Can I have a show of hands that would support directing me to, yeah, and I'm in agreement as well, so I will mark that as something to do tomorrow when I get a spare moment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
That letter would be addressed to who and CC'd to who then?
Well, I would send it to address it to Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Barrett? Okay, not the Minister of Natural Resources.
You know, if you want it to the minister himself, that could be CC'd to the minister. Why not?
Okay, and the Minister of Energy, because he actually, I think he holds the trump card on this.
Will do. Thank you. Receive as information. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. AMO policy update on page 81. AMO stands with Canada and Ontario on NAFTA. I need a mover for this to receive as information. Councillor Black has moved. Councillor Geisens has seconded that the AMO stands with Canada and Ontario on NAFTA. Information be received as information. Discussion. Councillor Black.
We could do the same on this one, as send off another letter. AMO is asking the municipal councils are encouraged to Consider pass this resolution copying the Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Designate, well, Premier Doug Ford now, AMO, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Could we do that?
I have that to resolution, my clerk tells me next.
Okay, great.
So we'll first of all receive this as information. Any further discussion? Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now you'll see on page 81 the NAFTA resolution. Our clerk has typed that resolution up with the whereases. So Oliver has moved, guys, and says second. I'm just going to read the therefore be it resolved. And you've got it in front of you that the Ontario municipal governments represented by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario stand together with the federal and Ontario governments and their efforts to protect Canadian jobs and local economies, and that AMO will work with the province of Ontario to support the interests of municipalities and communities affected by trade disputes and during ongoing trade agreement negotiations. And AMO will work with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to ensure that Canada understands the municipal impacts affected by trade disputes and during ongoing trade agreement negotiations, and be it further that Norfolk County supports AMO's resolutions. Discussion on this. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next item is from Joanne Dufresne. It's the Simcoe Composite School Reunion Organizing Committee's request. It's moved by Brunton, but I will need a seconder. Councillor Black has seconded. At the request of Joanne Dufresne, SCS Reunion Organizing Committee's request, an LCBO request for designation as event of municipal significance be approved pending receipt of all other required approvals. This is the meet and greet event that we're having. Any discussion on this request? Those in favor? It's carried. Next we have on page 85 the request for the LCBO on the dinner and dance event. I'll need a mover. Councillor Black. It's been seconded already by Councillor Geisens at the request of Joanne Dufresne, SCS Reunion Organizing Committee for the dinner and the dance event. Request an LCBO request for designation as an event of municipal significance and be approved pending receipts of all other required approvals. Discussion. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Brenda Blanchard, the Director of Education. I will read the motion. You have it in front of you. Moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Brunton, that the request from Brenda Blanchard, Director of Education of Grand Erie School Board for the use of Waterford Athletic Park by Waterford Public School be referred to Community Services for review and appropriate response. Any discussion? I do have a question here, if I may, on this to Mr. Cridlin. Mr. Cridlin, I don't know how much you know about this. I know that we have an agreement already with the playground to the west of that school. What's the plan of action that you will review it, and would you bring it back here? I know this will have to be something maybe to be considered for the school opening in September. What's your plan of action here?
Through the Mayor to County Council, we have already touched base with Brenda. You are right, there is an agreement where the school board uses it for special events and for phys ed. Now they want to be able to use it for recesses. So we don't, on the outlook of this, see any problem with it all. They're already there, but we have a meeting set up, I think, in the next couple of weeks with Brenda, see exactly what they want. I think they're looking at it as more of a housekeeping. They want to tidy their end up. So it can come back to County Council. Maybe we'll talk about it at SLT. I think it's something we can handle at staff level.
Basically the same property they use already.
Same property, same spot.
It doesn't seem to have caused any problems. Any other questions, discussion on this recommendation? If not, those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Cridlin, for that. Page 89, correspondence again from Megan Allen. I have a motion here to receive as information. I have a seconder, Councillor Oliver. Do I have a mover? Councillor Height. Moved by Height, seconded by Oliver, that the request from Megan Allen, representative for Lyndale Heights Parent Council's request for sidewalk on the west side of Rutherford Drive be received as information. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. That concludes communications. On page 91, there are minutes from our council meeting 2 weeks ago, June the 26th. Is there anything in there to discuss or point out to me that's not correct? I have read through them. I did not find anything myself. I will declare those minutes approved as they are printed on page 91. Let's go to reports of committees. I'm on page 105. It's been moved by Councillor Brunton, seconded by Councillor Height, that the minutes of the council in committee meeting of July the 3rd, 2018 be approved as presented with the exception of resolutions number 18, 19, and 25, which are pulled for further discussion. Any discussion on everything in that council meeting except 18, 19, and 25. Anything on the balance? Those in favor of approval? Carried. Excuse me. I'll deal with these three items separately. You'll see Resolution 18 on page 112. Item 18 reads as follows. Staff report HSS 18-37, smoke-free outdoor spaces bylaw signage be received as information, and that council approve that council's approved 2018 levy supported operating budget be amended to include $30,000 for the supply and installation of required signage with funding to be provided from the tax levy. I do not have a mover and seconder. Councillor Columbus has moved. I will need a seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Brunton has seconded. Now we can discuss. Discussion, Councillor Columbus.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was chair of that council committee meeting, so I didn't get into much discussion about this. But I had it pulled because one of the concerns I had was that there's going to be some cannabis legislation, regulations coming from the province. I heard it on the news the other day where they're going to be notifying municipalities of how we have to regulate. And I thought that being that this was not part of the 2018 budget discussions, that maybe we should wait and see what the Ontario government has to say about how we are supposed to police or watch over public places with respect to the smoking of cannabis along with tobacco. Hence the reason I wanted it pulled.
I'm gonna open for more discussion unless you wanted that as a question to be answered. Okay, I took it more as a statement for us to consider. Staff, do you wish to respond to Councillor Columbus? My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've asked Ms. Jones to come to present on some of the technical aspects of the legislation.
Ms. Jones?
So as to my knowledge, with the smoking cannabis, you will only be able to smoke cannabis at your property, so at your home. So I'm not sure how much guidance they're going to provide for public spaces, or signage at least.
Mr. Mayor, but we do not know for certain, right?
That is correct. It could change, but that's how it's written right now.
Thank you.
Councillor Black, did you have something?
I guess I have to see where Councillor Columbus is coming from, and I'd hate to put up one sign and then all of a sudden you need to change it or do something different and then spend the same kind of money to fix it. So I think he's got a valid concern. I don't know if we can approve it, maybe defer it pending further information on the actual cannabis rules and regulations. I don't know if that's a possibility. Maybe a question through you to staff about
So the
that
question is,
approach.
can this be deferred?
Well,
until-
pending further information about
Yes.
the smoking of cannabis and all that.
Yeah, can this bylaw, which we're legally supposed to post, can it be deferred pending more
So
information?
through the mayor to council, I may defer partially to the clerk or the county administrative officer, simply because of the bylaw. So it is a bylaw that this council has passed, and it is to prohibit smoking, which includes cannabis in public spaces. So regardless of what the legislation changes are, it is still a bylaw that has been passed, and it would just be enforced through the bylaw. But I will defer to the experts in the room.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the province, we have the ability under our bylaw to enforce any vaping or smoking of marijuana. And so it's just a determination of whether or not we lay two charges. So the province is working out their charge. We have the ability currently to regulate with our signage. So it's really something where usually when you try to charge under everything possible. If the province is uncertain about how they're going to regulate it, but we did specifically add into that bylaw the ability for the municipal law enforcement officers to charge because we wanted the municipality to be able to do it as well. Not that they wouldn't be able to, but it is also uncertain how this would be enforced by the OPP.
Go ahead.
Further, well, it sounds like there's no reason for us to not approve this motion then. That's what it sounds like to me, because these signs would cover off cannabis and tobacco both. That's what it sounds like.
My comment, if I may, along the way of attending a few workshops and that, is my understanding, and Ms. Jones, you can correct me, that basically, for the most part, the smoking of cannabis will be fall under the sort of the same regulations as smoking tobacco. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
And I would also think that most of our signs don't have the word tobacco on them. They say no smoking within a certain distance of an entrance. Do they have the actual word tobacco on the signs? Do you know? I don't.
So I know the Smoke Free Ontario signs does not have the word tobacco, but I would like to check with the signs that we have created the artwork for, just to see if they do have cannabis. I know they have the cannabis logo, but I'm not sure about the words.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Height?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I'm just wondering, is this our sign shop making it and they require the $30,000 for materials, or are we outsourcing this?
So through the mayor, through the mayor to Councillor Height, when we initially brought this report forward, we were unclear what the levy impact would be as per the report. And in speaking with Public Works and Facilities, it was determined that it would be outsourced because of the sheer volume of the signage, and more importantly, the implementation of the signs and actually putting them up. That's why the significant levy impact.
How many signs are we talking?
Sorry. So approximately 127, or 220, 327, sorry, 327.
127 signs and, of course, installation. 327. 327. Thank you. My apologies, I didn't hear it correctly. Okay, so We do have a motion on the floor, Councillor Oliver.
Have two. But just on that last point, I want to be sure I understood that correctly. 327 signs, and the supply and installation of that is only supposed to be $30,000, which is less than $1 per sign to build and install. Something's got to be wrong with that. Or 191, about $100, yeah. No? Okay. Mr. Mayor, I was uncomfortable with this original recommendation in last week's agenda, not so much for the reasons that have been talked about tonight, although I share those, but the fact that it is a 100% levy charge that we're going to be incurring for what is supposed to be a 100% provincially funded program. And I still struggle with that. We as council have talked about this time and again at budget time, and I would rather have seen this matter come forward as a budget item to be duly considered and weighed against other priorities and perhaps added on to our grant eligible program for the Smoke-Free Ontario funding, because I think, you know, I was shuddering when I saw this one, and we just did our financial statements from 2017, and I know we're all guilty as council of making mid-year budget changes, and before you know it, you've added another $300,000 or $400,000 onto your levy that you hadn't anticipated when you set it. So I'm really struggling with this from that perspective as well, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion? Well, you have the motion in front of you. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is defeated. Councillor Oliver, would this be something most likely should be sent to the next budget session?
Mayor, if by some chance it didn't pass tonight, I think we should encourage staff to put it on the list for,
I agree.
For the 2019 levy supported budget.
I agree. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 19 of our minutes from 2 weeks ago is on the top of page 113, moved by Councillor Height and seconded by Councillor Oliver. That report, CAO 18-28, this is the CAB 2 tenant options, be received as information, and that County Council instruct the General Manager, Employee and Corporate Services to take the appropriate steps to initiate option number 1, including the execution of any staffing, legal, or administrative actions and documentation required to affect the same. Discussion. Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Mayor, I had this one pulled as well, and simply because we have spent, or we're spending $70-some thousand renovating this and upgrading the building, Cab 2, I guess it's called, and we do need the space to house 4 employees in the communications division that's coming together, and I don't know exactly what kind of rent we pay over at the RAB building, but I think it's in the neighborhood of $15 to $16 a square foot. Is that right?
Closer to 19.
19. So what would the square footage, what would we be getting from the BIA per square foot for this building that's been remodeled and upgraded?
800 square feet, 1,200, like $1.50.
$1.50?
Thereabouts.
A month.
Month. But what would it, so that would be per year 12?
18.
Per, on a year basis per square foot.
$1.50 times 12 is 18.
18. So we're getting up there fairly close.
No.
No? I'm just thinking that overall we're going to need to house these 4 communications individuals, and I think the place for them to be is in the vicinity of Cab 1. This particular headquarters is where they should be housed, and that's why I think that BIA would be better to take one of the vacant storefronts downtown Simcoe and house them there. It's my opinion.
Any further discussion on this motion? I hear none. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the motion do support option 1. 3, 4. Those opposed? That motion is carried. And on page 115, item 25 reads as follows, that the report PW 1845, response to Rutherford Drive sidewalk deputation be received. I have a seconder, Councillor Geisens. I need a mover to receive this as information. Thank you, Councillor Black. Black has moved, Geisens has seconded. Go ahead, Councillor Black, discussion.
Could I further amend that, if I can get a seconder to say further that the sidewalk be installed from Anderson to Jones, as per the report?
That's not an amendment, I don't think.
No.
I'll get it clear. I'll get it. The next one? Oh,
Or is it separate then?
yes.
Deal with one?
Yeah, the next one is to approve a budget amendment, 40,000 to cover the construction cost
Okay.
for 150 meters. Can
So
we
wait
leave it till
until
then?
that.
So let's receive this as information first. Yep. Discussion on information. Sorry, I didn't know it was here either, sorry. Those in favor of receiving this as information? 2, 3, there's enough, thank you, carried. Okay, the next one is need a mover, Councillor Black. Black has moved and Geisens has seconded that staff be directed to install a sidewalk for approximately 150 meters in length on the west side of Rutherford Drive as outlined as an option in report PW 1845, and the council approve a budget amendment of up to $40,000 to cover the construction of the sidewalk, which is estimated to cost $32,500 with installation. Discussion. Councillor Height, please.
Sorry, Mayor Luke, where are you looking at?
You don't have that in
25?
front of you. You don't have that motion in front of you.
Oh, that would
It is one that has been brought up by someone to put before on this issue. And it's in order, because this was something we dealt with last week. And Black has moved it and Geisen has seconded. Councillor Black, discussion?
Well, I know the residents or the parents up there want it, and they want it for safety reasons, and it's unfortunate. It seems that over the years, like schools have changed, people have changed with their transportation needs and numbers of cars, and it just seems that everybody's trying to get from A to B in such a hurry. Even the parents themselves sometimes are going too fast, and the same ones that are complaining about some other parent going too fast when their kid's on the road or whatever. So certainly these parents, they know what it's like up there, and I think we all know. I mean, I used to take my own daughter to Holy Trinity. I mean, the number of buses is just mind-boggling to me. They never would let me on the bus. I always had to walk to school. So, but the buses just surrounded all the way around Holy Trinity, and you know the parents lining up out front, and it's just a nightmare, you know, for certain times of the day. And I'm sure Mayor Luke, you've probably seen it in many similar situations yourself. So I guess I feel the concerns for these parents, and despite the fact that Allegan has kind of deferred, I think there's still this need there. I'm convinced it will make it safer for the kids to have some place to get off the road, and a place that's safer than being on the road and away from those cars just going lickety-split all over the place. And with the accessibility standards, the sidewalks are even wider now than they used to be.
Councillor, excuse me, Councillor Columbus, please.
Yes, whose responsibility would it be to clear the sidewalk of snow and ice?
Well, I know Mr. Barrett isn't here, but my experience as a principal, the sidewalk would be cleared by Grand Erie District School Board. The sidewalk is on county property in front of theirs. I say that because I know bylaw came to the school when sidewalks where I was at, the contractor hadn't cleared them or had piled the snow too high in the parking lot and put the snow on county property. So it'd be like any other owner is responsible to clear the snow from the sidewalk that is situated on county property. I think that's correct. Okay. Yes, Councilor Brunton.
Clarification on that. The sidewalk will go in the boulevard if it's approved, and I guess my question is, where does the park end and the school property? Like the school property comes right out to the Rutherford.
Yes.
But does the park start at some point on part of that in terms of going north?
Well, the park comes down from behind the residence on Man. It comes down and it abuts the school property, yes.
All of it? You know what I'm
The
saying?
school property goes from Rutherford right across west to Donley, and then the park's on the north side.
Okay, I'm thinking of the way the park is to the north.
Yes.
And I thought some of it was partially on the, it came like at some point the park, huh? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
East corner of the park.
Yeah.
East corner.
I guess.
Gary?
You're looking at where the north limit of the school property is. Like the north limit comes right up to the first residential property. And then the park is entirely
North of that.
Yeah. There's a bit of an angle there.
Okay.
I think what you're getting is whether or not the park actually came out to Rutherford.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion is to direct staff to install the sidewalk on the west side of Rutherford and that it be a budget amendment. Those in favor of this motion? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? 2, 3. I am going to vote in favor of this motion. Therefore, the motion is carried. But there'll be no money to put no smoking signs on the sidewalk. Let's continue. On page 119, it's been moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Brunton, that the minutes of the Health and Social Services Advisory Committee minutes of April the 19th, 2018 be approved as presented. Any discussion on the Health and Social Services Advisory Committee minutes? Those in favor of approving these minutes? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Now I would like to go to page 191. This is the beginning of 3 staff reports we have. The first staff report on page 191 is PW 18-48. This concerns an award of contract for the consulting services for the upgrade of the Booth Harbor non-municipal drinking water system. Mr. Houghton, are you willing to give us this report, highlight it?
I will.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the report in front of you is asking for the approval to award a contract to R.V. Anderson for phase 1 and 2 of a report on Booth Harbor and basically assuming that system. There is 2 phases. The first phase is the feasibility study that is going to be used to refine the costs and how the project would proceed and some of the information in terms of how the system would be designed. That would also assess what the cost would be per property that we would pass on to the homeowners. We would return to council at the end of phase 1 to advise of the results and seek council's approval to proceed with phase 2 if that's their desire. But the intent is to award both phases at this time to RV Anderson. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Houghton. There'll be some questions. I'll start with Councillor Black and then Brunton, please.
My concern on these projects, and we've had different ones, and we've even had a request in Simcoe there, was it last week, and of course what we said was basically our policy is that the users pay. And that's what we said in that instance, and in this instance it should be the beneficiaries of this project should pay. Not the taxpayers, not the ratepayers. So my question through you to Mr. Houghton is, do the residents that will benefit from this understand that?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's one of the goals of phase 1 is to be certain that the stakeholders understand that they would be assessed that cost.
Okay, and would they be assessed the cost of this this report right here? Would that go on that bill as well?
My understanding is all the costs associated with this would be on that per lot assessment.
So, okay, but what if it didn't go forward? Then who pays for this? Is that the ratepayers?
Again, I'm not sure if finance can respond to that. I'm not sure there's a means to recover that if the project actually doesn't go forward to recover the first 25,000 of that phase 1 study.
James, I can see just from the look in his face, he knows the answer to that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Black, for local area levies, if you will, I would have to do a little bit of research on the approval process of that. I'm not sure if we can just do it without any petition or any agreement with the owners. I'm not familiar with the process. I've never done it before. So, but we could look into that and get back to you as far as.
Okay. I appreciate that, but that is a concern of mine that users pay for all costs associated with this. So I don't know if CAO has something.
I see the CAO would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Mr. Cribbs.
Unless I've misconstrued, so I've had conversations with Mr. Fields and Ms. Robinson, and while I always have to be open to the notion that I could be wrong or misconstrued, the design of this, you are correct in that our rate system is based on user pay. If this doesn't go past phase 1, then there is no user, and we'll have to look to the rate budget as a whole. But in fairness, it's $25,000 that needs to be spent to make a determination in the context of a $17 million budget. That context has to be kept.
Thank you. I have Councillor Brunton, then Height.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I've been involved with these in the past, and to me, it's a local improvement project. These people petitioned for this project, if I recall. I think there was 100 and something residents. And I apologize, I don't remember all the legislation in the Local Improvement Act, but I do know that we never went out, like the cost to service water only for 100.
Mr. Brunton, I hope you have a question coming here.
I will have a question.
Because we'll certainly have some more discussion when there's a motion on the floor.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess that's what I'm leading to.
You can make some comments, but I hope there's a question here.
My understanding is that this is a local improvement based on petition by these owners, and I'm wondering why is that not what we're undertaking here? Why are we putting money out before we even enter into that? Because I understand you need 2/3 majority of council to move ahead with it. That's my understanding, the way the Local Improvement Act used to operate.
I'm in a difficult spot answering your question. I'd ask you to recall that this topic was presented to you in the context of legal advice provided to you that answers that question specifically 4 or 5 months ago. This calendar year, we've been in closed session, you've received an answer to that question. I cannot provide you with an answer to that here in open session. Our county solicitor is in the building. If you wish to recess and close for a reminder, reiteration, we can do that. You have received advice on this topic. As a result of that advice properly given in closed session, you now have a report before you in open session that's endorsing some amount of public spending, which is why that's properly an open session. So we've already been down this road. We are now here at this point where a majority of this council has to decide whether or not it's an appropriate investment.
I have another question. I'll wait till after we get the motion on the floor.
Okay, thank you. And again, this is for phase 1 only, correct? $25,200 roughly. Before I go to Councillor Height, it's for phase 1 to proceed with that only.
This is for a contract that involves a phase 1 and an anticipated phase 2. There is, as you read and further that, yes. There will be an opportunity to not go forward with phase 2 as the RFP is designed. So it will result absolutely in the phase 1 dollars being spent. It may or may not result in the phase 2 dollars. That will be a decision of this council or possibly a future council, depending when it comes back, but of council.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Height, thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I'll make it quick. Phase 1, which is a detailed feasibility analysis and consulting with the property owners. Don't we have staff?
Sir, Mr. Mayor, we do have staff. This is a task that we would normally put out to a consultant, the amount of detail and their professional engineering expertise is what's required.
It's required, it must be done by them?
That is what we're asking, yes.
Okay, I guess. And phase 2, I find that the price on that is absolutely ludicrous. It's consulting engineering firm to complete a design, tendering, and contract administration at $273,000. That's not even a single meter or a line in the ground. We're talking 100 houses. Already the cost will be $3,000 per house. Nobody on our staff can do that because we're better off to hire 3 people at that price.